Hey everyone, um, hadn't really planned on doing a video today, but I just wanted to do a little video blog about an incident that happened this week that could be beneficial to a lot of people. Something I hear about from time to time on the news or stuff like that, but you never think it's going to happen to you. Um, Anyways, as you know, this last spring, after my dad passed away, my brother and I, we went through he and mom's estate and figured out what we were each keeping, we were going to sell, what we were giving away, that kind of thing. And I, of course, bought my brother's half of the house because mom and dad left it to us 50-50. He wanted to sell, I wanted to keep it in the family, and so I bought it. And anyways, when I first started coming out here to help go through stuff, and I knew I was going to be getting the house, I started moving my stuff out here. My brother, he always kept the furnace turned down because since no one's out here, there's no sense in having the furnace blasting away and using up all signs of, or using up the propane from out to the tank out in the backyard. So anyways, I kind of am sensitive to cold, so I always made sure to turn up a little bit when I was out here, and just enough to take the edge off the cold air or coldness, and then before I left, turn it back down. And heard some noises. Of course, at the time, wasn't out here 24/7, so I heard the furnace making some noise, but I was like, okay, it's just it's a different furnace. I'm not used to being around 24/7, so it's one of those things like a new house or anything. You have to get used to the noises and stuff because houses make noises as they get older and everything. And then of course springtime came around, and we basically when it started warming up, stopped using the furnace, switched over to the AC. No big deal. So earlier this last month, it's November 1st right now. Anyways, this last month, temperatures here in north central Ohio, start getting cold again, and like today, it's only getting up into the 50s, and at night it's been dipping down to the 40s and sometimes even the 30s. So, anyways, excuse me. Started using the furnace again, and started hearing the noises again. It sounded like a banging every time. Every once in a while, I would hear this banging sound, and I thought at first something had fallen, or Smokey had gotten into something and knocked something over. I go look, nothing out of the ordinary, and I started noticing it then that it was happening when the furnace was running. Didn't think anything of it, and again thinking it's just noises that you have to get used to with a new house. So anyways, obviously I've been pretty busy with getting stuff done around the house, getting work done and everything, and getting stuff moved around and situated and everything. And over this past month, started feeling kind of fatigued and really drowsy, and I noticed my back and shoulders were starting to hurt a bit. I have aches and pains, but this is getting to be where it's like, it's starting almost feeling like something's about to pop but won't, that kind of thing. And the tiredness, I know I need to get more sleep than what I usually get, but this wasn't, just getting drowsy. This is where I was literally fighting to stay awake. And you know, I'd be, I work, do over the phone tech support, and I'd be in the middle of a phone conversation with someone, and my back would be hurting, so I'd have to shift how I'm sitting and everything, and I would literally feel myself literally not nodding off to sleep, or trying to nod off to sleep. And I was still talking to the person and everything, and I just thought I was getting fatigued and everything, which which would make sense with the getting stuff done around the house and everything, and overworking myself. But it's like, no matter, even when I tried to get more rest, I was still feeling really, really groggy, to the point where I was fighting to stay awake. And that, plus the backaches and everything, I just thought I was overdoing it. So anyways, the bang from the furnace, I actually was down in the basement doing laundry, and I noticed what was happening. Basically, the noises I was hearing, that was a bang that was coming on when the furnace would kick in. Basically, with a gas furnace, if you're familiar with gas furnace, the thermostat clicks when it hits the temperature that you have it set to for turning on the furnace to warm up your home. Or the thermostat clicks, and then in the furnace you hear that whoosh of the gas going in and getting ignited to start heating up. And then, as about 30 seconds after that, the furnace would go to click on, and there would be a loud bang, like someone would take their fist or the palm of their hand and smack it on one of the furnace ducts. Only it wasn't coming from the furnace ducts, it was coming from the furnace. And I was like, what on earth is that noise? So I asked my brother. He hadn't heard anything, but he's like, yeah, you might want to get it checked out. So I called the company, Hall Heating, Plumbing, and Air Conditioning here in Bucyrus, who they had installed the furnace and air conditioner out here at this house for Mom and Dad, which is why I went to them for my house in town, because I figured anybody does work for Mom and Dad are happy, they must have done a good job, so I'm going to go with that. So anyways, they had, prior to my buying the house in town, they had installed the furnace in town at that house that I had, and they also replaced the AC unit for me a year ago, this last summer, at that house too. Anyways, they had a tech come out this past Monday morning, and I described it for him, where the noise was coming from, what it sounded like and everything. I kind of caught it on a video on my cell phone for him to hear. It's kind of faint, because sometimes it wouldn't be really loud, other times it would be so loud that, especially if I'm in the basement, I'd hear this loud bang, and I would literally jump and spin around thinking something had exploded or something behind me. And so he came down, or we went down to the basement, and he checked some things out. Turns out what happened was the heat exchanger on the furnace went out, or was on its way out, I should say. Normally, where you see the flames inside the furnace where it heats up the air, for whether you're on gas or in my case propane, it's supposed to be a blue flame. But on the furnace downstairs, on the heat exchanger that was in there, it was an orangish yellow flame. So it wasn't burning the gas right, and what was happening was there was, the gas was going in, and rather than igniting, it was building up in there. And then when the furnace kicked in, it was a delayed ignition, and that's what was causing this loud boom, was all that gas buildup igniting, and basically, I guess you could say, a mini explosion in my furnace. Not only that, we found out that it was releasing an usually high amount of carbon dioxide. A lot of it was going out through the exhaust, which we found when we went out back to look at the PVC exhaust pipe coming out of the house. Propane gas should burn clean, but this white PVC pipe, the inside of the white PVC pipe is all black from all the soot and everything, this carbon dioxide that's being blown out of the furnace. The thing is, not only was that carbon dioxide getting blown out the exhaust, it was getting blown into the rest of the house. Which I was unaware of, because basically it would, like a friend of mine said, that carbon dioxide gets diluted in with the rest of the air, gets blown through out of the furnace. So it was slowly being released into the house. As for how bad it was, he told me that the most that they're supposed to, you can safely have in the exhaust is, according to the meter that he used, was the safest was 500 parts per million, or ppm, or whatever measurement they use. But when he hooked up the meter to the exhaust on my furnace, the meter basically aired out well past 4,000. So it was at least 8 or 9 times the safe limit for my furnace for the, how much carbon dioxide is supposed to be in the exhaust. So basically what was happening was my furnace was slowly poisoning me, which I was not aware of, because it was, being diluted with the rest of the air, and it just set in so slowly. And he told me that he could not legally let me run the furnace safer more, and he had to shut it down. Fortunately, the heat exchanger is under warranty. The furnace was put in back in '99, so it's an older furnace, but the parts are under warranty still. So I'm getting it replaced at just cost of labor for it. Although they are going to get me a quote for a new furnace for down the road, so that way I can start planning for that. But yeah, he could not let me have the furnace run any more because of the high levels of carbon dioxide and toxic gases that it was releasing. So, fortunately, when Mom and Dad had renovations done in this house back around 2002, they left the baseboard heaters in all 3 of the bedrooms, which you can hear the baseboard heater clicking in the background here. That, and then the living room has baseboard heaters in that too. So I just basically had to go around and make sure nothing was against the heaters and flip those on down at the breaker box. The fireplace, it used to be a wood-burning fireplace. It's now it's an electric fireplace. It's got like a space heater element, or I guess you could say, in it, that provides some heat too for there in the TV room. And then I've also got my space heater from the house in town, because the upstairs bedroom that was used for my home office, that is one furnace duct that went upstairs, so it was like in the wintertime it could get a little chilly, so I got a space heater for up there. Anyways, I've got that as well, so I'm not without heat, and I'm able to move the space heater around for wherever I need it. So I'm able to stay warm and everything. But the amazing thing was, after he turned that furnace off on Monday, that Tuesday, the next day Tuesday, I was wide awake all day. No fighting to stay awake or anything. Granted, yeah, towards dinner time, I was a little bit drowsy, but there wasn't that, feeling of being, fighting to stay awake the whole day. And I also noticed too over the past few days, my back is feeling really terrific now. My back's not hurting, my shoulders aren't hurting, and they contacted me about the options for getting the furnace repaired or replaced, and so fortunately their supplier has the parts needed on hand, so we're waiting now for the parts to arrive. They've been continually checking to make sure I've got heat and everything, or alternate sources of heat too, which is very nice of them to, keep me in mind because of how cold it is and stuff at night. Yeah, they said that the two big things for whenever there's a gas leak like that, or a carbon dioxide poisoning like that, is people feeling extremely fatigued, sleepy, hard to stay awake, and then the aches and pains sometimes get really bad too. And as bad as I was feeling, I mean, I've been feeling terrific the past few days ever since that furnace has been turned off, which kind of spooks me. Well, I mean, I'm glad I'm feeling better. At the same time, it's spooky how I did not realize that I was slowly being poisoned by my furnace. And, it hit so gradually that I never noticed it. And, with everything else going on, I just figured, I was just being fatigued from working around the house and everything. So, and I think, and that's basically the point I'm making on this video is, if you have a gas furnace, actually any furnace, but particularly a gas furnace where there's possibility of gas fumes or anything like that, make sure you get that inspected. One thing I'm going to be doing here before too long, I'm going to be getting one or two carbon monoxide detectors. I used to have one when I was down in Hilliard in my kitchen. Basically, it was one of the ones that basically it's like a smoke detector, only you plug it into an electrical outlet. I used to have one of those. I haven't found it since I moved up here to Bucyrus, so I think I might have accidentally left it down there. But anyways, spending a little bit of money on something like that, and plus, come next fall, I'm definitely going to have them come in, even if the furnace is running fine. Because the furnace was running fine, or at least it seemed to be running fine, other than the noise. And so, even though it might seem to be running fine, I'm going to make sure next fall, when I fire up the furnace, before I fire up the furnace again before winter, yeah, I'm going to ask them to come back in and inspect it to check things out, because I don't want that to happen again. Obviously, I'm very fortunate that they caught that when I did, because who knows what would have happened. So many times this past month, I just would sit down and immediately start drowsing off to sleep or nodding off, and there would be times when, especially if I'm off work, of course, when I'm working, my phone, we're constantly on the phone, so I'm constantly getting, phone ringing and everything, but, when it's quiet and stuff after work, I'd sit down, and next thing I know, it'd be a half hour later, and I'm opening my eyes, and it's like a half hour later than when I sat down, and it's like, okay, I know I'm tired, but this is getting to be ridiculous. So, but it's like, what spooks me is, if it's making me that drowsy, what would happen if it would have knocked me out, made me go to sleep, and I wouldn't have woken up. I mean, Smokey has been acting normal and everything. Smokey's okay, which is a good thing. But just the whole idea of, or thought of, for about a month, for almost a month, I was, breathing in this poison, and who knows what effects it could have had on me, long term and everything, if I would have kept checking that out, or breathing that in and not having the furnace checked out or anything. So, but yeah, if you have a gas furnace, get that checked out before you start using it for the winter. Because you think about it, in the wintertime, you close up your house, you turn the furnace on, those fumes aren't, except for that small exhaust pipe, those gases are, if they are building up and spreading through your house, they're not gonna have any place to go except for in your lungs, and might not hit you right away, but it can start affecting you more than you realize. So, but anyways, I just wanted to share my story with about what happened. Hopefully you're all doing okay, and like I said, if you have a furnace, especially a gas furnace, get that checked out before you start using it, because you don't want to end up like another statistic with someone getting sick or poisoned or whatever from just something that might cost a few bucks to get inspected, might cost a few bucks to get a carbon monoxide detector. But it's like I was telling my neighbor earlier today when I was talking to him, I'd rather be buying that than someone buying me a coffin, and so anyways, thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'll see you in the next video.